What's going on, workforce? Brian here, and today I want to talk about why healers are concerned when going into Shadowbringers. Now, I got to go hands-on with White Mage, Scholar, and Astrologin out at the media event, and all this footage is subject to change. All the numbers are subject to change. This is development footage, and I think that's one thing I do want to point out, that everything can change, and we've seen it change in the past. The development team here is probably some of the best, if not the best, in the industry when it comes to being able to listen, understand, and then respond. That doesn't mean we are necessarily always going to get what we want when we want it, but at least I always feel heard, and I feel that they do their best to make the game as enjoyable as possible. Now, with that out of the way, I do want to talk about a couple things here. I want to talk about where I come from as a healer, the healer gap between the Savage and maybe kind of a mid-tier healer, and where people are concerned with that gap and what it means overall for the enjoyment of healing altogether. And then the idea, what we've seen happen in the past with certain jobs and certain roles, dramatically shift expansion over expansion to where it becomes unrecognizable, aka Bard and Machinist from Heaven's Word to Stormblood, and even AR to Heaven's Word, etc. So now now that I've kind of detailed what you can expect out of this video, I want to talk about first where I come from as a healer. Having played as a main White Mage in Final Fantasy XI, the core understanding or the core identity that I resonate with healers is that healer fantasy. You don't really have a lot of time to put out damage, even though you did have some damaging spells, and depending on what sub job you brought would impact what type of healer that you were going to be. Are you going to bring some black magic to the equation, or are you going to just focus in on healing? Now, I've never taken that identity and tried to apply it to everybody. I never said that because how I view healers in this game means how they should be viewed. We put up a video not too long ago, maybe actually 2 years ago now, talking about healer versus healer in the concept of should healers DPS or not, because that's sometimes a debate. I've run plenty of content where the healer feels that their identity as a healer in this game is to not put out any damage. Now, for me personally, I've never understood that concept because how are they not bored? There's plenty of times right now in the existing content, we'll talk about Stormblood here in a second, where there is built-in downtime, where everybody's topped off, my mana pool's full, there's nothing that I need to do because I can shield and I can defend, and maybe I can put out some damage because that was ended up kind of filling the gaps, allowing me to do that. But where that comes from, the understanding is that the game has been designed in the past so that healers' damage is not taken into account when factoring DPS checks. It actually ends up only being additive. So having a healer, having that downtime, being able to put out damage only makes things go faster, which foundationally, especially when you get down to the kind of the farming concepts of it, means that you can ultimately progress in the content much faster than normal. So farming becomes important. Progression is a whole different story when it comes to healers because it's all about seeing as many phases as possible, but that's not for this video in this case. So the healer gap. Now, what the healer gap refers to, and there's a lot of different arguments that we can talk about, Scholar, Astrologin. White Mage feels actually kind of pretty good, and that's going to be where we end up talking about the differences between these three jobs here in a minute. But first off, the concern is that you have Savage healers and you have kind of mid-tier healers, people who aren't at that Savage rating level, but still enjoy the healing role. Where I'm going with is that the concern ends up being is that the content specifically is designed for you to always be healing, that essentially maybe mid or even entry-level healers might struggle with the role, where they can't afford to kind of keep up, where their MP is struggling because they haven't really used or understood to be able to use their MP regaining abilities or slotting a piety or whatever ends up being necessary in making sure that you don't run out of MP in this game. Because if you run out of MP, you can't do anything. You can't attack, you can't heal. I mean, you could swing your auto attack, but that leads into a whole other joke by Dorkly. If you guys haven't seen that video, I'll see if I can't find the link to it and put it in the description. Okay, so if mid or entry level healers struggle to keep up, that's going to keep a lot of healers out of the pool. That's going to make the shift to always needing healers, and it could be a very stressful job. I think actually healing tends to be the most stressful job when it comes to the game. I think you as a healer are going to take the brunt of it. You're going to get blamed if things go wrong because it is typically viewed as the healer's fault. You know, and the joke always being that healers need to adjust. I'm going to stand to this AoE. Healers need to make up the difference. And while I don't agree with that at all, I do want to just communicate that here right up at the front. The other side of the coin is that if you don't always need to be healing, if the content isn't designed around always needing to heal, what ends up happening is that you have kind of the savage tier healers who get bored. If you really can't find time to put out damage because you have a limited pool of MP, and that's the risk. The risk is that the savage healers find that healing is very dull and they might just move on to something else, or the risk is that healing becomes too much of a challenge. And not having been able to go hands-on with 80 content, having not been able to go hands-on with the raids, that is kind of where there's no answer to this question. We can only speculate and we can only worry, and that's what I would like to advise everybody on, just not worrying about it. The best thing we can do as a community, go hands-on with it. When Shadowbringers is released, get that experience, provide feedback. The devs are listening. And I believe this to the core. I've seen so many changes, positive, and maybe not necessarily always receive the best, but as far as it goes, I, as a player, feel heard. I feel like the devs always really want to put out the best content. And all we can do right now is speculate and make ourselves even more concerned. And I think that it's okay when it can be positive, it can be okay when it's exciting, but we've seen this happen before where people really get frustrated, they really get concerned, and the only real answer is to wait, and that's not fun for anybody because we still have about 4 weeks until the game is released to be able to go hands-on with it, to either confirm our fears or to squash our fears. And that's where hopefully things calm down, and that's why I want to give you, my advice as a player, as somebody who likes healing, who likes tanking, who likes DPSing in this game, is that just put your thoughts down on paper, express them respectfully in the forums. I'm not telling anybody they should not communicate. In fact, I'd say over communicate, and then go hands-on with it and see if your real experience is confirmed, or if your fears are confirmed, or if ultimately you're like, oh, this actually plays out pretty well. Because I think at the end of it, from what I've seen from Scholar, Astrologin, and White Mage, is that when we talk about the healer gap, is that you have one of the three healers to either challenge you or to make it easy. So entry and mid-tier healers, maybe they're going to gravitate to White Mage because it might be a lot easier to manage your MP and thus be able to output some damage. But if those who might want that more technical style healer, or they want that challenge in the, like Scholar or Astrologin, want that raid utility, they have that ability to kind of pick and choose what is the most engaging healer for them. The risk here is that obviously the best healer ends up being just one of them, and it applies to both entry level and savage raiders, right? So let's just pick one, White Mage. Let's say White Mage was just the easiest and output of the most damage, and it was the most safe. Well, then we might see obviously that take preference in the expansion. And ultimately, I think they always want to make all jobs viable. They want to make all jobs enjoyable to be able to be played by everybody. And that's unfortunately back to the conclusion that we're just going to have to wait and see how it actually plays out in the harder content altogether. Now, when I talk about what we saw with Bard and what we saw with everything, is the idea of jerking people around, right? Where the fundamental shifts keep happening, and they happen so dramatically to where you like healing. Oh, and now you hate healing. And then you like healing again. That expansion over expansion, things change quite dramatically, and it doesn't become fun. This happened for me with Bard from ARR to Heaven's Word, where I just stopped playing Bard and then really enjoyed it going into Stormblood. That's always a risk, and it's always a risk. And ultimately, I would want to just let you guys know that hopefully, if you enjoy healing, that there's going to be a healer out there for you, whether it's Astro, Scholar, or White Mage. Now, I got to go hands-on with each of them. I actually ended up really enjoying White Mage. Scholar is going to take me a little bit more comfort level to get used to. I didn't necessarily fully understand it, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's perfect or that it sucks, because I still, I'm even still absorbing the footage that we captured and the information that's been released since we were there at the fan media event. But I think essentially same thing with Astrologin. I really actually enjoyed White Mage. I didn't necessarily enjoy the other two, but I also know that I need a lot more hands-on experience. When I went into Stormblood, I started off with a White Mage, I went to Scholar, and then I went to Astrologin, and then I ended up going back to Scholar as I kind of played with it and as kind of what my playstyle ended up wanting from the game itself. I think the concern here is that we've kind of been put into a certain perspective. Like for Scholars, I always like that being able to do a lot of damage because your fairy kind of made up for a lot of the healing in normal content. And I think if that ends up changing, you can end up having somebody who just isn't happy with their main job. That's why usually we typically say that the game really advocates for you to play more than one job. Not necessarily you have to main more than one job, but it's helpful to have options. My concern for players out there right now, and before I wrap up this video, my concern out there is for those who've only leveled up like Scholar, and now all of a sudden it's like maybe they don't enjoy Scholar and they have to start over from level 1 with Conjurer, or have to go unlock, you know, Astrologin or something to kind of find what they're looking for if they really like that healing kind of identity. Now, this is, you know, one of the arguments that I've seen. You might have a specific argument. You might have something that you're concerned about, and I'd like to talk with you about that in the comments below, guys. Leave your comments, leave your questions, leave your concerns, you know, below, and let's have that dialogue because it's really important. You know, hopefully I can help alleviate any kind of fears when it comes down to it. You know, unfortunately, we all have to wait, like I said earlier, but I do want to let you guys know that for everything, you know, I love you. I think it's going to be interesting to see where it goes, and when and as things change and as the patches roll out and the game changes, hopefully, like, we don't end up running into that kind of jerking people around situation where it's shifting dramatically and nobody ends up being happy. And I think that will be avoidable, but we'll have to wait and see. So I'll leave it at that. Also, Mr. Happy did put out a really good, long, in-depth video talking about like each job specifically. I'll include a link in the description below if you guys haven't seen that and you have the time. Go check out his video. He put some really good thoughts into the debate as well, so I do appreciate him putting that out there. I love when he is able to put out those discussion topics. Just hopefully you guys enjoy his content as well. But I wanted to kind of shout him out there in this video too. So anyway, I think that's my thoughts. That's my reaction. I'd love to know yours. For Work to Game, my name's Brian. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Hey guys, it's me, Brian. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you're new here, we hope you hit that subscribe button. Check us out. We talk a lot about video games, and we hope to at least hear from you in the comments below. We also try to respond to our comments. You know, we really appreciate the comments, the discussion, all the various points of view that everybody is so kindly, I guess, and politely or impolitely shares with us from time to time. So anyway, guys, again, thanks for watching this video. We hope you hit that like button. We hope you hit that subscribe button. Come back for more content each and every day. We post a lot around here, and we'd love to hear from you about what you like about video games and everything, and especially if you have any questions that you're stuck on in anything. So anyway, signing off. See you next time.